All right, guys, welcome to the first episode in a very long time of Coffees for Closers. And new host, Caden Sanchez.
Let's
Cue
go.
screams. All right.
It's about
Everyone's
to
so
get dirty.
excited. It is. The Dirty Sanchez is in the house.
The dirty, dirty.
Um, exactly. So the podcast is coming back. We're going to be doing weekly episodes. And what we're going to be doing this week is kind of explaining why we brought it back, what me and Caden are doing, and then yeah, kind of talk shit, sales, and madness. So yeah, Caden, welcome to the show.
Thanks, boss. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah, man.
exciting what we're working on. I was going through all the leads and how they're generated and all of that stuff, and good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah,
Very, very easily duplicatable because it's all done from like an educational standpoint.
yeah. So for a little bit of context, so me and Caden have worked together for what, like I want to say like it's gonna be 4 or 5 years, 4 years, something like that. When did you sort of
Yeah.
come into the realm of seventh level?
Inner Circle started March of 21, so that's how long we've been working together.
Okay. So that's getting back there for a while. And so Caden's always been in insurance. And then we sort of dabbled together. We started sort of seventh level financial. And then for whatever reason, the reasons aren't important. There was just some stop gaps that I think stopped us from being able to make that we wanted to. There was just things that were happening that were just not ideal. And then I thought it best to hand that back over to you
Yeah.
for a while there. But now, we've sort of a bit more independent and we've been looking for a little bit of time. We've been doing some stuff together in other places, but what we've found now is like, okay, like we've got Caden who knows how to recruit and also like sell the living crap out of insurance. And then we've got me who knows how to train salespeople and then also like recruit salespeople. And so what we're doing is we are starting Sniper Insurance, which is going to be fun. And so we've teamed up with a captive agency,
Yep.
which not a lot of people on this podcast probably know what that means. So if you can, Caden, just kind of like give us the rundown, the difference between kind of what, like the two different types. You got IMO model and you've got captive. So like, how do they work?
Yeah, the IMO model and the broker model. It's not that it's a bad model. Works great for some people. It just is a little bit harder to get started in my humble
Okay.
opinion, because the agents are responsible for buying their own leads, which
Okay.
doesn't sound like a big deal. Uh, but what it ends up doing, and in my experience, even with a good sales rep, when you start a new offer, there's a learning curve, and
Absolutely.
and when you're spending, when you're buying your own leads, you have to get leads in high volume,
Mhm.
which makes it a lot harder, because if you're not spending enough money on leads, then you don't have enough leads to call, and you end up just pissing off all of the leads that you were calling because you were calling them so much. And as you know, that is maybe a little bit illegal as well.
Yeah.
But that's besides the
Just a little
point.
bit. Just a little.
Uh,
That little guy? Don't worry about that little guy.
and so, I think that's why the retention in that model is so low.
Yeah.
It's like 7% retention, not success. And ours was a little bit better than
Yeah.
that, but it still is tough to, uh, you know, build a team and then watch people that you care about. You grow close to them and they're working hard, but they just are not profitable. They might be making sales, but that doesn't mean they're making money because they have expenses. Whereas when you go to a captive agency, um, you're kind of just plugging into a system that's already built. You don't have to
Hmm.
build it out on your own. You're able to get the leads. They help you with leads. Usually they're provided like ours are, and the commissions are usually relatively the same.
It
You
doesn't
know,
seem too much different. Like from what I saw, like maybe the top doesn't get quite as high, which for obvious reasons because you're not paying for anything. But it seems to me like your profit would be way higher,
yeah,
just on
that's the
average.
thing is that people get confused. It's kind of like real estate, where like real estate agents talk about how much they've sold. They don't talk about their commissions.
Yeah.
And insurance is a
Yeah.
lot of the same way. They talk
GCI.
about,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, they talk about their issue paid or their submitted business, but how much did they spend in leads? I don't know, right? So it looks bigger, but there's so many more expenses ultimately. In my humble opinion, I've done both. I think captive is a hell of a lot easier and also just more fun because as an agent that's on the phones, you don't have to worry about as much. You know, you're not worrying about expenses and leads and all this. You can just focus on what you're good at, and you can just focus on getting good at selling and sell and make a shit ton of money.
Yeah. From what I see, one of the reasons why I wanted to go into this space with you is because from what I can see in the high ticket space specifically, there's an awful lot of like quite skilled sales reps in that niche. Um, but like it's getting harder and harder. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? One of the reasons why Dialer I think is doing so well is because it fills a need of like people really struggling to get a hold of their leads, but also it's a shift from like book a call funnels into like phone numbers because they're so much cheaper to get.
Yeah.
And so everyone's dialing, and that's only going to get more prevalent, I think, as as advertising gets harder and harder. And so what that means is that like closers are being paid less because like they're not bringing more to the table, right? To be perfectly frank, but also like it's just a pure economic, just it's just the way that it has to be, and they're getting paid less, and they're having to do a bit more, and they're finding it harder and harder to close because they're going for lower and lower intent leads, and so now they're going to have to do a longer process in order to kind of get these people to buy. Right.
Yeah.
Or they have to like lower their commissions because SDRs have to be brought in. You know what I mean? Those guys are now working 8 hours a day, calling on the phones all day. You know what I mean? And I think which is viable, but it just means like there's a large amount of closers that I think like the top tier guys will be fine. But if you're not in that top tier, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then like you're just gonna really struggle, you know,
Yeah. It's just
because
getting
like
harder and harder.
yeah, and so you're not going to make as much money per sale. They're going to start to lead route far more aggressively towards, you know, the top. The DEI days of closing, I think, are done. So it's going to be like if you're the Steph Curry of the team, you get all the shots, you know, which is totally fair enough. And so, you know, but in insurance, it's something that's far more recession proof, and it's something that is far easier to sell, to be honest, just in terms of like the actual, because the product is just it's more needed, it's more tangible and it's more, you know, proven, right? Like everyone has to
Yeah.
have it. It's sort of like having something for compliance reasons. Whereas like, you know, having you know, a sales coaching or whatever, like these things are not requirements. These are nice to haves, not need to haves. And as the economies tighten up, you know, hopefully as of today, right? Big
Yeah.
Daddy Trump is back in. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
hopefully that starts to ease a little bit, right? But, you know, it's been tough for a lot of people out there. And I think that insurance provides a really good pathway as long as it's done well, because I've seen people try their absolute darndest and really kind of give it a red hot crack, but not really be able to make it because like they can only afford to buy the really cheap leads, right? And most
Yeah.
people don't know, like when you're in an IMO, like there's different categories of leads, right? So
Yeah.
you've got the age leads, you've got the new leads, you've got like you can sort of, you know, there's a wide, you know, range that you can actually buy from. And so man, it's tough, dude. If you're calling someone, you know, I remember we were doing the role plays this a while ago where it's like, you know, 3-year-old mortgage
Yeah.
protection lead that has no idea that you're calling,
Yeah.
has been
So,
called maybe 400 times by other people. You
and it was
paid 80
generated
cents
bait and
for the
switch
lead.
anyways.
Yeah, he paid 80 cents for the lead and he bought 1,000 of them. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, fucking hell, man. Like, it's tough sales. And don't get me wrong, if you don't have to make money in the short term, that's a great way to get good.
Yep.
But if you're trying to provide for your family, that's fucking tough, you know?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, for sure.
and like, we can provide all the training in the world, but like, you can't, like, there's just a time factor that people need, you know. So what's the difference between kind of that and like what we're doing now? Like what are the leads like as they come in? What are the systems like kind of walk me through it.
Yeah. Yeah. The like what we're doing now is significantly different than that. Um, because the leads are really generated based on just giving people free value versus, like I don't have anything against mortgage protection. I love mortgage protection. I've sold mortgage protection to be clear. Um, but there's no free value up front. You know,
Yeah.
it's just you're calling them and, trying to book them in and then talk about mortgage protection and you just dive in. Whereas when there's free value given up front, it makes it 1,000 times easier to get referrals. And those start to really grow in insurance. In my opinion, I think that's what most people lack in insurance. I think it's the thing that's talked about the least in insurance is referrals, because like it's the one product that everybody needs. Like you just talked about. Why the fuck are we not all asking for referrals? Like
Exactly. More
what?
market referrals. Like after a year, you shouldn't really even
Yeah,
need to buy leads if you sort of keep up with all the people that you've sold.
yeah. Like I know people that are making seven figures and they don't do any prospecting. Like all of their business comes to them, but they've been doing insurance for, 5, 6, 7 years.
I just
Um,
ask. So like, 10 people becomes 11 and then,
yep.
21 people becomes 22. And, I mean, it just kind of like, you just grow it out there all of a sudden. And, you send out your Christmas cards and you put your magnets on the thing. And it's like, you give some, you just ask people really.
Yeah, that's
And
really all it is.
if you do that consistently, people don't understand. You find it's not about getting a referral from everybody. It's about finding the super refer.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. So like it might take you 30 sales or 40 sales to get to the super refer. But if every 40 sales you get one over the course of a year, let's say you get three or four, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
it's like, man, those people send the hordes.
So many.
Like they smash you with people. They'll send you 30 in a year. Like, you know what I mean? Like if they're in a mom's group and all of a sudden you get the whole mom's group, you get all the husbands, you get all the wives, then you know what I mean? And you kind of go through that. And that's kind of how these things perpetuate and work if you're kind of working your markets properly.
Yeah, exactly. And like with what we're doing, it makes getting referrals even easier because most of the leads are generated in some way, shape, or form, helping people set up their will for free, which almost
Okay.
nobody has their will set up. And so you're helping them set up their will for free. It'll hold up in court. It's a legal document. We're helping them out, explaining the whole thing, really educating them. And then instead of asking like, who else do you need? Who else do you know that needs insurance? It's like, who else do you know that should have their will set up and probably doesn't?
Yeah.
And
Everyone.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
it's
that's just
ridiculous.
straight value. And so like it makes actually that person they're doing their friend a favor. It's not like, oh yeah, so they're not like they're doing you a favor. It's like, oh yeah, man, I wonder if my brother's got his will set up. Hey man, do you have your will set up? No. Oh, okay, cool. Hey, I had a guy set it up for free. Do you know what I
Yep.
mean? I'll just hook you up with Caden and he can just do it for you. Like, oh really? Yeah, sweet, cool. And like that's the easiest referral of all time. Like if you can't ask for that, then you're just a pussy. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, because that's like, I don't know how you can the cognitive dissonance required in order to think that that's not a good idea is madness,
And you would
you
have to
know?
be so shitty to not sell insurance on the back end of that. It would be ridiculous because you're going over all of their finances. And most people don't go over their finances that well. Most people don't know their finances. Uh, so you go over them and it's like, hey, it's a bread. It's obvious. It's in their face. Like if you die, your family is screwed. Yeah, if you can't sell insurance on the back end of that, I
That's
don't
a
know.
good
Maybe you should get a
it's
different
a good
career.
lead in. Yeah, it's a good it's a good lead in. Those are the conversations that we'll be having over at Sniper Insurance, right? It's gonna be a real motivational type area, right? If you can't
Exactly.
sell this, fucking quit. All right, quit life. Yeah, so so we've sort of started this, we're doing Caden's doing a couple of group calls every week, right? So that we can kind of bring people in, explain to them what's the process of getting licensed like. Is it crazy difficult? Obviously, I live in Australia, so I haven't done it. I've been training insurance people for a long time. And I've done
Yep.
about 1,000 role plays, but I can't sell it. So what's the process?
It's actually nothing crazy. I think the hardest part about it is that it's boring. But the
Okay.
process is you have to do a prerequisite course. Um, it's it's a state ran course, so you know how those goes.
Yeah.
They say you need like 30, 35 hours, something like that, but if you cruise through it, you can get it done in like 20,
All
because they
right.
don't actually time it. So you just have to get that prerequisite course and then you have to take the test with the state. And it's just boring. It's not hard information. The people that struggle with it the most are just the ones that they don't have the discipline to sit down and just intake the boring information, because
Yep.
it's far from exciting, but it's easy, you
Yeah.
know, and
And that's
so
that sort of, I guess that's kind of like insurance. Like insurance is not exciting, but
yep.
insurance, like I think more millionaires are made from insurance than any other industry. Um, I think even billionaires, I think, but it's like, like insurance is something that's always going to be there. It's always something that I've been super interested in terms of like, being involved in from a sales perspective, because like there is never not a need for it. And the way that insurance is sold in the US, it's just, it's just a salesperson selling leads. And then from there, like essentially that that's the insurance company like delivers it. And because insurance people stay for what is on average like 12 years or something
Yeah.
like that, like there's like an average 12 years. So like the insurance company will pay anywhere from like 50% of the first year up to 60, 70, 80% of the first year, like whatever it may be, right? And so like
Yeah.
that, it sounds like
Sometimes
it's
even more.
outrageous. Yeah, it sounds outrageous until you actually think about it. Insurance companies have taken away the burden of having to do any sales and marketing, which is the biggest and most complex department, right? That
Yeah.
has the most amount of compliance, regulation, staff turnover, HR issues, stuff like that. And so what they do is they focus on the actuarial stuff. They focus on actually making sure that they can provide the insurance. And so they've outsourced the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. And so like essentially it's sort of like, when they sell alarms, right? Jeremy always talks about selling alarms. And it's like, you get paid really well selling alarms because the average alarm client stays for 9 years. And so when they go in and do a free install, they're just getting someone to sign a contract saying that they'll do the monitoring. And then they sell it to a monitoring company and get 3 years commission because the average person stays for 9, and they don't have to do
Yeah.
any sales, any marketing. They didn't have to pay for the actual gear. And so then that alarm company then takes out the gear, right? And then pays the rep. And it's
Yeah.
like, so you might get, you might get 50% of the first year, you might get 100% of the first year,
Yeah.
right? And so like that's why it makes sense. And that's why it's like, oh, okay, like that's how you can get paid. You collect $100 of a $1,200 a year premium and you get $600 commission. You're like, what is happening? You know,
Yeah.
because that's really how it works, right? So if you have like an average AP of like AP stands for annual premium, you have an average AP of like $1,200. Someone's going to pay that monthly. It's like $100 a month, and from that you would get something like $600 to $800 commission, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That
Yeah,
actually really ruined high ticket for me, man. Because
yeah,
like the different things that I've done in the high ticket space, and when I've sold them, the entire time I've ever been on a high ticket sales call, I'm just thinking, man, insurance is so much easier. Like, what am I doing here?
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, in order to get say $600 commission, you got to get 10% in a $6,000 offer,
Yeah.
right? And so like $6,000 for info is a hell of a lot harder to sell than $1,200 paid monthly for insurance, which protects your family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just so much simpler and more straightforward. And it's the reason why, like, fuck, I remember when I was running seventh, I remember the reps would talk about how is this idiot making 50 grand a month? Like we would be training people in insurance and they'd be on 50, 60. Some of them were on 90 grand a month. And we'd be listening to them role play and they're like, they're retarded. We're like,
Yeah.
what? Trump's back in, so we can say that word now.
Yeah,
But
we can say
like,
whatever we want now.
yeah, exactly. We'll grab him by the pussy, the whole thing. Right. So, um, but like we just couldn't, we were like, what is happening? Because like our reps were way better and not making anywhere near that. Like the top rep at seventh level was making like say 35 or something like that at the time. And it's like, or 40. And it's like, this guy's making 50, 60, 70, and like it's terrible. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And obviously, it's not terrible because they have a system and they have, like the only marker of a good salesperson is how many sales they make, right? But you can be a much better sales rep in a much easier industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
the
like
vehicle matters.
the vehicle matters a lot, you know? And I think high ticket has been great and will continue to still be good for people who are really skilled. But I think that insurance is like people who are really skilled will just absolutely decimate.
Yeah.
There's a guy recently that I've seen on a mutual acquaintance of ours. His name's Ashton, and he has a guy that's
Oh
come
yeah.
in and is doing like, mate, he's doing crazy numbers.
Yeah, it's
You know what I
ridiculous.
mean? Dylan, I think his name is.
Hmm.
I think he's selling
Yeah, he
like a
crushes
hundred
it.
grand a 100 grand a week worth of AP, or 100 with with some crazy amount. Like I think that he wants to be the first guy to do 200 grand in a week or something like that, right? Worth of AP. But the guy just works for 10 hours a day, and that's really the difference. Like
Yeah, he
it's
works his
just
ass off.
yeah, I mean, like that's the difference. But you could put that kind of work in high ticket, and you wouldn't make a fraction of what that dude makes.
Yeah, he
Just
just
because,
crushes it.
yeah,
I talked
yeah,
to Ashton had me reach out to him at one point because he was getting some objections when I talked to him, and I didn't realize how short of amount of time he had been in insurance. I got on the phone with him, and it had only been a couple of weeks, and he was already doing pretty well. And I just told him, I was like, dude, you don't need to do anything. Like, just don't overcomplicate it. Like, get your feet under you. Just work. Like, work for 3, 4 months. Don't lift your head up. Don't ask any questions. Just shut up and work.
yeah.
And I say that to a lot of people. Very few people actually do it. But apparently he did it.
Mate, yeah, well, he's on our dialer, so I can see him. He's doing it. I can see him. He's getting after it. Actually, a fair few of them are from Ashton's team. I think that they've seen someone just do it and make a shitload of money.
Yep.
Because that guy's the top producer in that entire giant thing. Was there 4,000 agents for whatever reason? He's number one, and he's only been selling for like 4 months.
Yeah,
Like
he's
in
crushing
sales,
it.
he's a professional athlete before that.
Yeah.
Um, so like, it's just work ethic, right? But the cool thing is with what we're doing is you could do that, but you don't have to pay for any leads, and you can just come and do it. And so like you can just go in and do the exact same thing. And we're gonna be trained by me, gonna be trained by Caden. And I think the whole point is like, this is a good opportunity for us and a good opportunity for other people who want to be involved in sales, want to be involved with me or you, and then want to get into an industry that's like just plodded along in the background, never change, never like, never getting crazy,
No.
never having these giant slumps, never like having ad accounts go down. You know what I mean? Because like there's it's a very different ecosystem. It's not like you're relying on the business to generate you leads. Like that business might have 25 different mechanisms that they use to generate leads. And
Yeah.
so and then there's just a lot more infrastructure. There's a lot more certainty behind it, I think. And so, I think it's a really cool opportunity for people to be able to come in, get trained, and actually, get results and, God forbid, make some money in sales.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. As one of
Yeah.
our mutual uh, friends has told me that, yes, I want to get wealthy, but I don't want to get wealthy on other people's failures. And so I think that was one of the big choices for doing this is let's find somewhere where people can, really succeed. And for what it's worth, we need people to come in and work like Dylan, right? Because we can't
Oh
do the whole
yeah.
thing ourselves. We need some leaders.
No. We need some people who want to come in and, like prove themselves and then take some teams. you know.
Yeah.
So that me and Caden are pretty solid at recruiting people. You know, we've only sort of just started this, and we've had a lot of applications and stuff come through with very minimal effort. I think it was over 100
Yeah.
sort of came through, and the bigger it gets, then like the easier it becomes for everybody. And we want to be the fastest growing line in this company. And I think that we have an opportunity to do it. And we're sort of lucky that we've been afforded a fair few resources and stuff like that that we can use. And I think that we're in a very good position to be able to ramp the living bejesus out of it and have a lot of fun doing it and do trips and team building and all that kind of good stuff. And just overall, just have a good team of people. Like, I think we're like when we were talking, the reason why we chose to call it Sniper Insurance is either that or the Dirty Sanchez. But and
Both
it
were
was
viable.
like, yeah, both very viable. But in that like 21, 22 period, 2020 to 2022, Sales Sniper was like this really cool oddity where like the best closers all kind of like amalgamated, and like it was a place where people just wanted to be better and better and better and better, and it attracted the best.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was because like there was just a culture of like no bullshit. There was a lot of accountability like internally, and then we did a lot of like training, but it was really difficult training.
Yeah.
And it was like that way, and I led most of it, and I'm going to be doing a lot of training for this, and so is Caden, and Caden is, you know, when like I would say for certain aspects of sales, especially like outbound insurance, obviously, but like far superior to me. I do pretty well in the objection handling realm, but I think that pound for pound, there's not much difference between us. And so, for someone to be able to come in, get trained by us, but then also like really, we really want to foster that environment of like savages, just like people that are out there on a mission, on a purpose. We want to be the best of the best agency. And like, when we walk into a room, everyone's like, oh, those guys, right? And
Those
we have,
assholes.
yeah, exactly. There's three types of people: there's dicks, pussies, and assholes. Right? Which one are you? Um, but yeah, and like, I also remember that like from when I was in special operations, right? Like, I remember one time we were coming off this big job in northern Afghanistan, like just sort of just like I think near the border of Pakistan, but like I could be wrong. Um, and we'd done a bunch of things and actually blew up um a petrol station, a gas station. That
Nice.
was a big boom. That was a big boom, right?
Yeah.
And we got in this big firefight, and it was a whole thing. And then we had prisoners come back with us. You know what I mean? And like, that we were setting off, or whatever. And I remember getting off the plane, and we're all fucking just like covered in shit, blood, fucking, you know what I mean, dirt
Yeah.
like that. We're getting off the helicopter, sorry, and we're sort of like walking out, like holding these dudes, you know what I mean? And everyone just kind of looking at us, going like, "Who the fuck is that?" You know? And I knew some of the guys, right? And they were like from like the regular army, and I was like, "What's going on? What's going on, losers?" Right? But like that feeling of like they're like, "Whoa, who the fuck is that? Like, what have they been doing?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that's a great feeling. And I think like that's the kind of feeling we had at Sales Sniper in that sort of peak time when it was like the focus and it was, this crazy agency that had 60 fucking done for you clients and 100 reps and, all this kind of stuff. And I think like we can create that again. Um, and it'll be a lot of fun. And, it's in an environment where people can succeed and a bunch of people don't have to fail. It's not a casino, right?
Yep.
You can like it's not, it's not crypto. It's not you can only win if somebody else loses. It's like this is like a legitimate thing that people can come in, do their thing. If they're sick of high ticket, if they're sick of, you know, just, leads going up and down and all that kind of stuff. And,
It's just
they
long
can
term.
sell something to net good.
It's more of a I've the part of the reason I never left insurance to go to high ticket, even as we've dabbled in high ticket and different things like that. Like the reason I've always kept my flag in insurance and refused to ever leave is like, bro, I got a family. Like I got a family. I need a career.
Yeah,
Do I want
yeah.
to work forever? No, not really. But do I want to have to worry about ups and downs in the economy and all of this other shit? No, absolutely not. Right? Like, uh,
Bro,
why would
the
I
the
ever leave
economy
insurance?
the economy pinches you when you're in high ticket. Like you're on the coal face because
Yeah,
you are like the most expendable of
yeah.
things. Like it's like not buying high ticket programs and canceling your gym membership. Those are like those are like the two things. Yeah, mate. And so like you just feel it straight away. But I'm super excited about it. What's the best way for people to apply, get involved? We'll obviously put links in the description. But you're doing 2 sessions a week, right?
Yeah, 2 sessions a week. Easiest way to apply, get involved, just to find one of us on social media, reach out to us. I have a link on my social media that you can book into one of those calls directly from it.
Yeah.
So it's the _Caden Sanchez on Instagram. And if you look me up on Facebook, if you are, Matt's age and still on Facebook, um,
How dare you? It's where
uh,
business is done, my friend.
you could just look me up, Caden Sanchez. Easy to find on there.
Awesome, awesome. All right, guys. Well, we're going to be doing these weekly. This one is a bit more of like just kind of telling what we're doing and why we're bringing it back, and then all the other ones, we'll be talking about sales. We'll be talking about what's happening in industry, talking shit, making fun of people. You know what I mean? And overall having a bit of fun. But yeah,
All
Caden
things
Sanchez, welcome.
persuasion influence. Let's go.
Exactly. Welcome to the show. All right, guys, like, subscribe, notification bell, all that kind of good stuff. Go follow Caden on all the appropriate socials. Link will be down in the description to go ahead and book a call and also follow Caden. So yeah, we'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one.
Boom, boom.